all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tight because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play.
This round, here's Quanell X.
Well, Charles, that was a press conference being held by a sheriff in Florida who decided to make some serious warning to those participating in the No Kings protest. He is right to warn them not to break the law, that there are consequences to breaking the law, and that they would be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I understand that. But when you start making remarks about if you block a car and one of our citizens can't get through traffic and you block traffic, you might get ran over and drugged to the other side of the road. When you went further, Mr. Sheriff, to make remarks stating that if you pick up a rock, I understand that, that's a violation of the law. But then if you point a weapon at one of our officers, we'll kill you and you'll be graveyard dead. If you break the law in this parameter, one of our big, beautiful dogs might bite you. Well, Mr. Sheriff, you ain't the only one got big, beautiful dogs, partner. See, this man is speaking language not of a sitting elected official that respects the law and respects people's right to protest. They have a constitutional right to do that. Don't break the law, but those type of threats. Let me talk directly to Mr. Potbelly Sheriff. You hillbilly redneck, you be very careful of what protesters you choose to play that game with. Because some of us know and have participated in armed protests. And so when you threaten if somebody point a gun at one of your officers, you're going to kill him graveyard dead. Well, what happens when one of your officers prematurely point a gun at a protester, and that's illegal because they're not doing it? It's going to justify one of your deputies pointing a gun at them. Do we get to kill your deputy graveyard dead? What happens when one of your officers prematurely takes a nightstick and hit somebody or pepper spray somebody prematurely? Do the protesters get a right to take that same stick and whoop you across your head with it? Be careful with your threats, because you're not going to punctify some of us who hold protest. I wish he would try that in Texas.
You don't wish he would, and this goes to what we were just talking about.
I guarantee some of us got big dogs. We got pit bulls.
I sat there
some
in
of us
silence.
Got pit bulls to deal with your damn German shepherds.
Advocated for extremist violence, right? But it's now my turn to talk. Just last segment, we were talking about how the media wants to incite violence to achieve monetization through engagement. It's a horrible idea. Now, clearly, this guy was engaged in a lot of bravado in an effort that I assume he saw to get some social media and media attention, which he did, and to discourage people from engaging in crime masquerading as protest. I will say, firstly, I want to applaud the people that, I think the underlying rationale of the No Kings protest was kind of silly, right? No one was crying about no kings when we were locked in our homes, when businesses were being destroyed, when the false narrative of COVID wrecked our economy and destroyed so many lives, right? And that was king stuff. That was beyond the scope of the Constitution, and it robbed many Americans of civil liberties. We didn't have any protests then. Now we have this kind of fictional protest that Donald Trump's trying to be the king, but people earnestly believe it. I earnestly support the right to freedom of assembly and the right to free speech. And in Houston, we had, I think it was about 26,000 people turn out. and we saw no violence, right? And I applaud that. In other major cities in Texas and major cities in Florida, you didn't see the violence that marred the protests in California that did do all of the things he was talking about.
Well, what justified him threatening people like that?
Well, I think
when none of that is taking place in Florida.
Okay, but he was saying, I think very appropriately, if you point a gun at a cop, you're going to get shot. You should get shot.
But what if the cop points the gun inappropriately at a protester?
I know you're engaging.
Do they got a right to fire back?
Imaginary
Oh,
thing.
that's a lie.
Okay.
There's videos of doing the George Floyd protests of cops pointing guns like this at protesters who were not committing crimes.
Well,
and then remember General Russell Honore in New Orleans when they had the flood in New Orleans with Katrina evacuees. He went and told the military and the police, put those guns down, because they was pointing guns at people inappropriately. Do the people have a right to do the same thing that this sheriff said they would do when authorities point guns at them inappropriately?
I think what you're referring to in George Floyd was the pointing of less than lethal devices
these were assault rifles they were pointing.
At less than lethal devices, firing rubber bullets at people that were refusing to comply with an order to disperse. There is a very demarcated, very clear line between riots and looting and the freedom of assembly. And we have, especially the left, but also the right on January 6th, has conflated the two, and I think inappropriately, horribly inappropriately, and we've allowed so many loud, toxic voices, like yours, to usurp the narrative of sincere, earnest, we're upset. We also do have paid protesters. We have paid incitement. This is all, when you talk about last segment about unraveling America, by preaching what you're preaching, hey, let's go, use violence.
But not what he's saying?
No, I think that it was an effort to discourage looting and violence.
So all of that, those threats was just discourage violence and looting.
But I think that was very, he didn't say.
So now you
he
telling
did not
me.
say, I'm going to go kill people for doing nothing.
Wait a minute. And I did not say that we're going to kill cops for no reason. I took his same words and used them against him. Do we have a right as citizens to say to that sheriff, if one of your dogs bite us, inappropriately, then it'll be a dead dog.
Okay.
Do we have a right to say that? Do we have a right to tell that sheriff, if one of your dogs get loose, like they have in the past, and bite an innocent person, do we have a right to put our pet bull on your punctified shepherd? Do we have a right to talk like that to the sheriff?
The free speech clause of the First Amendment
we do.
Says you have that right. I don't think it's helpful rhetoric. You do remind me of a time where a dog, a police dog here in town, a friend of mine's police dog, bit another officer and ripped his ball out.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, right? But anyway, not on topic. Let's not talk about people getting, what do you call that when they clip them, like Game of Thrones? When they
neutered.
Not neutered, there's a term for it. He only lost
Spayed
one.
And neutered.
I think they put it back in.
But this sheriff is out of control.
Look, no, I mean,
those are straight up veiled threats.
It's
so
not
let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
But it's just like I want to be on social media. I want to be
Take
popular.
a man like me that has led armed protests.
Okay.
I've led armed protests.
Right.
You think he could talk to me like that?
Well, let's talk about armed protests. If we have enough time, in Salt Lake, we had a tragic death of a television star who also was a Samoan fashion designer who he went by AFA. His name was Arthur Falasa Alu, but his pseudonym was AFA. He was shot simply because he stood next to an armed protester. That armed protester in Salt Lake, do we have a clip? Do we have time to play the clip, Matt?
So people talk about,
Utahns are still reeling after a shooting occurred during the No Kings protest in downtown Salt Lake City.
It was happy. It was so happy, and people were cheering, and I had no idea that this was going to happen.
And what we thought was being the right thing ended up with us both almost losing our life.
According to Salt Lake City Police, 24-year-old Arturo Gamboa had an AR-15 style rifle in his backpack. Police say two men in yellow high-visibility vests were part of the peacekeeping group assigned to assist with safety. They go on to say the peacekeepers said
Okay, so the only person arrested and charged with murder was this guy, Arthur Gamboa. And even if you're believing all the reporting, he had an AR-15 just in his backpack, which is lawful in Salt Lake City. And he's an extreme leftist, so he aligned with the No Kings parade. But another, on a paid security detail from I forget the name, I think it was 5150, but there was an organization this guy was associated with that is, the people paying people to go out there and be upset, but on their security force, who was also armed. He shot at Gamboa, right? Grazed Gamboa, but hit this completely unrelated guy and killed him. And I can't speak to Utah law, but in Texas, the right to self-defense is not transferable. The right to defense of a third party is not transferable. And if you make a mistake, you're guilty for that action because he intentionally shot that gun. It's my understanding the shooter hasn't even been arrested, and the guy that's been arrested was literally just carrying his assault rifle in a pack. That's insane.
But that's why I question how authentic this reporting really is.
Okay.
Because it makes no sense. If he only had the weapon in his backpack, which is legal by Utah law.
Well, I don't know, but I believe that it is.
But even if it wasn't legal, I don't think it's in to shoot somebody that's in their backpack like that.
Right.
And these gentlemen who are security officers, etc.
They're not trained security. They're just guys running around with little pink badges.
So how does it make sense that they could shoot an innocent bystander and not be arrested?
It doesn't.
That's why
insane.
That's why I question just how authentic of the information is.
Here's the thing.
About that
report.
report.
I'm talking about. You're talking about armed protests. This is what I'm talking about. We have a freedom, like you want to talk, can I tell the sheriff that? Yes, of course you can. We have free speech.
I tell him to his face.
We have freedom of assembly. But you can do all that. Do we need to be running around talking about shooting and killing people?
But guess what, though? Tell that to the sheriff.
Okay, you led it. It was just attention
because
seeking.
It sounded like he was trying to exacerate the situation
but on the
more than bring calm to it.
The mainstream media and left-wing politicians were pretending for days that there wasn't violence. We saw Matt Seardorf.
But it was really only in L.A. It was really only in L.A., not across the country. So what justified that Florida sheriff talking like that?
During the George Floyd season of protests, we saw it tumble like dominoes.
But it did not happen in Florida like that.
Well, we did, and that's the question. Did it not happen?
So what justified that half-cocked sheriff talking like that when the citizens of his county and city don't behave like that?
Well, but
what justified his language?
They had behaved like that in the past.
No, not in his county they didn't.
Oh, yes, they did.
So you mean to tell me that their behavior in his county justified that man talking like that?
I don't think it was justified.
That man's crazy.
But I equally think it's crazy you saying
well, look here, be careful you threaten, Mr. Sheriff.